This presentation has been prepared as part of the Romani Influence Curriculum, elaborated for the purposes of PAL-Sound project. Module 9, Alternative Sources of Funding, developed by JA International Theatre. Aims of the module: to recognize the difficulties of fundraising, to understand the importance of previous self-promotion, to identify the financing options available, and know how to create a crowdfunding campaign. Topics: fundraising race, understand your current situation; self-promotion, how to present yourself professionally; financing options, third parties and collective fundraising; crowdfunding, first steps. Learning outcomes: building credibility through a professional portfolio, identifying self-promotion strategies, digital content and social media, understanding possible investment alternatives and its requirements. And now let's start with the theory. About the fundraising race: stand out, make your project attractive. Periodically promote materials of previous work on social media and platforms. What are your financing options? You could search through associations or foundations, crowdfunding, public grants or contests, venture capital, or artists' residencies. But don't forget to find a reliable platform, to provide a sample of your work, to offer incentives to increase engagement, and prepare an accurate budget. Crowdfunding is a finance technique operating by platforms on internet to match investors and borrowers for projects of common interest. It is used mainly to finance specific projects, ideas, as opposed to firms, and its apparent simplicity draws attention. Crowdfunding allows investors to finance projects of interest that do not necessarily imply a monetary return. On the other hand, it enables entrepreneurs to find non-bank finance opportunities. One of the main drivers of crowdfunding is an emotional engagement with the idea that might be related to local needs, private preferences, or brand values that are attached to the project. This can be understood as this type of fund was first created to help philanthropic activities. In these online platforms, potential entrepreneurs upload information regarding their project activities and objectives, in some cases in the form of a business plan and requesting funding under specific terms and conditions. The main innovation of crowdfunding with respect to other forms of finance is that the entrepreneur does not need an intermediary, for example a banking institution, to seek funding and can directly source the savings of a large audience. The type of contributions by the investor may vary depending on the internet platforms and the projects, so the rewards. In fact, new platforms are created across countries in a context of low regulation. New features and business models are continuously emerging. For lenders, they can contribute in two ways. On one hand, they give small donation without financial consideration, and sometimes in exchange for a non-financial but tangible compensation, for example a free ticket to a show, a pre-order of a product. On the other hand, by financial contribution, and here they expect some financial return. It comprises lending-based crowdfunding and equity-based crowdfunding. In this sense, there is an obligation for the borrower to repay the money to the investor, often with a fixed interest rate. Unlike traditional banking, there is no money creation, as only the amounts provided by the investors are lent. Still, in many countries, loans with interest can only be offered by authorized financial institutions, and money collection to be lent afterwards charging an interest rate is explicitly forbidden. The remuneration of investors can be through a share of ownership, including the participation in future earnings, or investments into securities used by the borrower that launched the campaign. Equity crowdfunding differs from usual risk capital investment because borrowers do not have to submit reporting standards. Projects seeking crowd investors are of smaller size, and crowd investing offer direct interaction between investors and borrowers. Nevertheless, there are some unavoidable legal fees and accounting costs that might make crowd investing unprofitable for small projects. All in all, the main benefit of crowdfunding is providing finance to innovative projects, new or existing firms. Also, the lower interest rates charged by crowdfunding platforms compared to traditional finance. In addition, crowdfunding platforms might reach entrepreneurs that are marginalized by the financial system, such as women and minorities. Moreover, there is a relatively shorter time lapse between applying for funds and receiving them from the crowd, usually 30 days. That makes the crowdfunding process much quicker than bank loans. Crowdfunding boosts entrepreneurial culture, helps make visible the entrepreneurs, and promotes a more transparent vetting of entrepreneurship ideas. However, there are also some risks of crowdfunding for both investors and borrowers. Direct risks for investors comprise project failure, closure of the platform, lack of an exit option, and fraud. From the investors, if the project fails, they have legal obligations to compensate the donors as well as illegal crowdfunding platforms. How does crowdfunding works? It connects investors and borrowers to an online platform which can be national or international. Sometimes the platform conducts a pre-screening of the viability of the idea. So, you must prepare your business plan and your brand love message, and once the proposal is accepted, the borrower prepares a budget proposal with the required amount needed to accomplish the project and a timeline. The project owners use social networks to attract lenders, investors, and the platform itself might also publicize the project. If the project is funded, then borrowers use the platform to keep lenders, investors updated. Venture capitalists. Venture capital funds are investment funds that manage the money of investors who seek private equity stakes in startup and small to medium-sized enterprises with strong growth potential. These investments are generally characterized as high-risk, high-return opportunities. In the past, venture capital investments were only accessible to professional venture capitalists, although now accredited investors have a greater ability to take part in venture capital investments. They are less complicated in the perspective of entrepreneurs and other small companies when raising funds. Nevertheless, attention must be made to the producers that entrepreneurs need to do before and during the agreement. Venture capital funds are private equity investment vehicles that seek to invest in firms that have high risk, high return profiles based on a company's size, assets, and stage of product development. So, they will demand a proper business plan and they will evaluate the project in terms of expertise and innovation. Venture capital funds focus mainly on very specific type of early stage investment. All firms that receive venture capital investments have high growth potential, are risky, and have a long investment horizon. Further, venture capital funds take a more active role in their investments by providing guidance and often holding a board seat. To search for this type of entities is very convenient for young startups. These venture capital investments not only address young startups, but they also address seed capital, early stage capital, or expansion stage financing, depending on the maturity of the business. Regardless your case, if you are granted with their funds, the operation is almost in the same way. As it is a consortium of individual investors, first venture capital must raise money, so this means that they will look for potential investors. Then, some of them will commit money to that fund and individual investments amounts are finalized. After this, venture capital funds seek for business models that have the potential of generating positive returns for its investors. These funds review thousands of business plans in search of potentially high growth companies, so you really need to work on your business plan to make it attractive and stand up from the others. The fund managers make investment decisions based on the prospect and the expectation of the fund investors. After an investment is made, the fund charges a management fee. They usually are around 2%, and some funds may not charge a fee. It is important to mention that fees for large funds may only be charged on invested capital or decline after a certain number of years. On the other hand, the expected return varies based on industry and risk profile. Venture capital funds typically aim for a gross internal rate of return around 30%. Receiving grants for musicians, a guide. Musicians seeking financial support to fund their projects or pursue specific initiatives can explore opportunities through associations, public grants, and contests. Here's a guide on how musicians can secure grants from these sources. First, associations. Associations related to music, arts, and cultural endeavors often offer grants to support the development and advancement of musicians. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to approach associations for grants. Research and identify relevant associations. Explore associations that align with your musical genre, style, or specific focus. Research their grant programs, eligibility criteria, and application process. Then join and engage. Become a member of relevant associations to access exclusive opportunities. Attend events, workshops, and networking sessions to build connections. After that, Craft a compelling proposal. Develop a clear and detailed proposal outlining your project, its goals, and the impact it will have. Emphasize how the grant will contribute to your musical journey and the broader musical community. It's important to follow application guidelines. Adhere to the specific guidelines outlined by the association. Provide all required documentation, including a well-structured budget, timeline, and any supporting materials. It is important to highlight your unique contribution. Clearly articulate what sets your musical project apart. Showcase how your work aligns with the association's mission and goals. Build relationships. Establish relationships with association members and decision makers. Attend association events to connect with individuals who can provide insights and support. Let's take a look at the public grants and contests. Securing public grants and participating in contests can provide musicians with additional funding opportunities. Here's a guide on navigating public grants and contests. Research government grant programs. Explore government agencies that support arts and culture. Identify specific grant programs that cater to musicians. Check eligibility criteria. Ensure that you meet the eligibility criteria for the chosen grant program. Verify any restrictions on project scope, location, or artistic focus. Prepare a strong application. Craft a comprehensive and compelling grant application. Clearly outline your project's objectives, budget, and expected outcomes. Explore music contests. Look for music contests hosted by reputable organizations or platforms. Participate in contests that align with your musical style or goals. Utilize online platforms. Explore online platforms that connect musicians with grant opportunities and contests. Follow submission guidelines and deadlines carefully. Engage with the community. Leverage social media and online forums to share your work. Engage with the music community to gain visibility and potentially attract contest organizers. Showcase previous achievements. Highlight any past achievements, awards, or recognition in your application. Demonstrate your commitment to musical excellence. By carefully researching, preparing applications, and actively engaging with relevant communities, musicians can increase their chances of securing grants from associations, public sources, and contests. Each opportunity provides a unique avenue for financial support and recognition within the music industry. Artists' residencies are limited time artistic opportunities. An artist who is granted a residency would either relocate their studio to a particular location designated by the residency institution for a predetermined period, work on a predetermined theme with a predetermined group of people, or produce a body of work using the materials, exhibition support, and curatorial guidance provided by the residency institution over a predetermined period of time. Artist residencies can be further categorized as follows. Location. Residencies are not limited. They can be found across the world, both urban and rural areas implement programs for artists. Artists who need to completely detach and become one with nature in order to create can discover a rural retreat for this reason. Funding. The respective institution is usually responsible for paying for the artist's residency. Several organizations that offer residencies receive income from patrons, sponsors, or trust funds that enable them to assist artists financially while they are participating in their residencies. Some residencies are financed by the government, while others may be self-funded by the artists who are participating. One must carefully read to determine what is covered by the organization and what they may be responsible for paying. Discipline. Most of the residency programs accept applications from all mediums, which might include any form of art. Those include performing artists, musicians, writers, and visual artists like painters, sculptors, textile artists, filmmakers. Some residencies, such as those for visual artists, will make it clear that they only accept applications from members of specific fields. Others may explicitly say that they are looking for applicants that operate on a certain topic. Duration. The length of a residency might range from a single intense week to several months or even years. It depends on the program. Typically, a residency lasts between 4 and 6 weeks. Environment. A common goal of residency is to foster a creative environment where individuals may interact with each other and work together. Residency programs are a way to connect with other creatives who have similar passions. There are often 9 artists living there at any given time. Some residencies are designed for one person at a time, while others may accommodate more. In some programs, the artist lives and works in separate studios but can occasionally gather for conferences and exhibitions. And now let's take a look at our practical exercises. Exercise 1. Mapping the local. Identify in your own local circumstances the various sources of alternative fundings as outlined in the subtopics above, and follow the instructions. First, research local associations and organizations. Begin by researching local associations, cultural organizations, and community groups that support artistic endeavors. Identify those aligned with your creative field, such as music, visual arts, or literature. Second, explore government grant programs. Investigate government agencies at the local, regional, or national levels that provide grants for arts and culture. Look into specific grant programs designed to support creative projects and artists. Third, connect with arts councils. Research and connect with local art councils if available. Explore their funding initiatives, grant programs, and any support mechanisms for artists. Fourth, investigate private foundations. Identify private foundations or philanthropic organizations operating in your locality. Explore whether they offer grants or financial support for creative projects. Check community and civic organizations. Investigate community and civic organizations that have a vested interest in promoting local arts and culture. Attend community meetings or events to understand their priorities and potential funding opportunities. Explore one online platforms and crowdfunding. Look into online crowdfunding platforms that cater to creative projects. Research if there are local or regional platforms supporting artists from your area. Attend local events and networking sessions. Attend local art events, exhibitions, or networking sessions. Engage with fellow artists, organizers, and community leaders to uncover potential funding sources. Consult with local business and corporate entities. Explore partnership with local business or corporate entities that may be interested in supporting arts and culture. Investigate any corporate social responsibility programs that align with your creative endeavors. Investigate cultural exchange programs. Research cultural exchange programs that might offer funding opportunities for artistic projects. Check whether there are collaborations or exchange initiatives supported by local institutions. Consider educational institutions. Explore whether educational institutions such as universities or colleges have funding programs for artistic projects. Look for collaboration opportunities with academic institutions. Utilize local media and arts publications. Explore local media outlets, arts magazines, or publications that may highlight funding opportunities. Stay informed about calls for submissions or artistic projects seeking financial support. Document findings and create a source list. As you gather information, document details of each potential funding sources. Create a source list with contact information, application deadlines, and specific requirements for each source. And last but not least, reflect on potential synergies. Reflect on how your artistic project aligns with the goals and priorities of each identified funding source. Consider the potential synergies that could make your project more appealing to these sources. Exercise 2. 3-step plan. Step 1. Research and conceptualization. Define your audience. Identify the target audience for your project. Consider demographics, interests, and preferences. Research similar projects to understand what resonates with your potential audience. Explore inspirations and themes. Dive into research to gather inspiration and refine the topics of your project. Explore artistic movements, cultural influences, or historical contexts that align with your vision. Identify collaborators and resources. Determine whether your project requires collaboration with other artists or professionals. Research available resources including grants, facilities, or equipment needed for successful execution. Step 2. Strategic planning and execution. Outline a detailed plan. Develop a comprehensive project plan outlining key milestones, tasks, and deadlines. Clearly define roles and responsibilities if working with collaborators. Budgeting and funding strategies. Create a detailed budget that accounts for all aspects of your project, including production, marketing, and distribution. Explore funding strategies such as grants, sponsorships, or crowdfunding to secure financial support. Leverage marketing and promotion. Develop a marketing strategy to promote your project effectively. Utilize social media, collaborations, and local networks to build anticipation and engagement. Step 3. Evaluation and reflection. Monitor and assess progress. Implement a system to monitor the progress of your project against the established milestones. Regularly assess whether adjustments are needed to stay on track. Gather feedback and collect feedback from your audience, collaborators, and stakeholders. Use feedback to make informed iterations and improvements to your project. Document and share success. Document the journey of your project, including challenges based and succeed achieved. Share your project success through various channels, reinforcing its impact. And our last exercise, write your residency personal statement for residency's application. This exercise aims at testing the knowledge received after the introduction to residency programs and their requirements for application. Specifically, the exercise aims at testing how the learners perceived the development of an applicant's residency personal statement. You will be divided into groups and brainstorm together the development of your own residency personal statement. Each learner will develop their own statement, but they will be divided into groups in order to help each other in the process. Make sure you follow the instructions provided regarding the structure of the statement. You don't have to develop the whole statement. You can instead draft your structure and answer the respective questions that form the statement. You should also follow the process of answering the indicative questions previously provided. Thank you for your attention.